Matt Ginsberg. I'm Bill's eldest daughter, Melissa's husband, and Bill's son-in-law. And I want to welcome everyone here today. Bill's brothers and sisters, his children, grandchildren, nephews, nieces, in-laws, and his good friends to celebrate Bill's life, to remember him, and to share memories, moments, and readings that highlight who Bill was and how much he meant to all of us. And Bill would be absolutely so touched that all of you came from near and far to make it here today to remember him and to comfort Carol and the family and his loved ones. So thank you for coming. And it is particularly special that we're here on the USS Yorktown to remember Bill, because volunteering here on a weekly basis has been an important part of Bill's life for the last 15 years. He met and became close with incredible friends here, including Andrew Barrett, who's the volunteer coordinator for the USS Yorktown. And we are extremely grateful to the USS Yorktown Foundation for allowing us to hold Bill's memorial here today, and want to thank them for making this possible. I think all of us who knew and loved Bill would agree that he would want this to be an upbeat, as much as possible, positive and informal occasion, despite how heartbroken we all are at losing him. So we'll start with a special reading by Bill's other son-in-law, Eric Gangloff, followed by a few words by Bill's brother-in-law, John Peterson, and then by Bill's close friends, David Ryan, Jim Cantwell, Mark Derision, and then from Andrew Barrett as well. And after that, we'll invite anyone else who would like to speak to come up to say whatever you'd like. And it'd be wonderful if anyone would like to do that. Before I turn things over to Eric for his reading, I want to share a memory of my own of Bill that I think in a very small way illustrates how special he was, at least to me. If I can get through it. I was supposed to be the one who could make it through this, but they have to call for a tag in. So I refer to this as the phantom toaster malfunction. As most of you know, Bill liked to build things, and he was very good at it. He built an incredibly beautiful wooden bridge over his beloved fish pond on Daniel Island. Literally finished it, I think, a day or 2 days before he passed. And he was also adept at fixing things around the house. You can ask my wife, Melissa. All right, My perception, anyway. But you can ask my wife, Melissa, and no one has ever said those two things about me. Good at fixing things or good at building things. So, soon after Melissa and I got married in 2001, Bill and Carol had planned to visit to us at our first apartment in Boston. And they were living in St. Louis at the time. And a few days before they came, our toaster oven stopped working mysteriously. And knowing that Bill was the king of fixes and my new father-in-law, and also knowing that Melissa would put Bill on that task as soon as he got there, I had two thoughts in mind. One was I wanted to impress Bill that I too could fix things. And two, I dreaded the humiliation of watching him fix our toaster while I watched it. So those were the two things I had in mind. So the day before, I dove in and I took the entire toaster apart, piece by piece. Of course, once I did that and I saw 100 pieces of toaster sitting in front of me, I still had no idea what was wrong with the thing. So I put it back together. Sort of. Took about 4 hours. And the sum result of my putting that toaster back together was that it looked like a toaster, but the little handle that you press down to make it toast wouldn't stay down anymore. So obviously it didn't start working right away. So Bill and Carol arrived, and within about 1 minute, Melissa told her father that the toaster was fried, that I had taken it apart and tried to fix it and failed miserably. and then she needed him to step in. So Bill said, "I'll take a look." And I could sense humiliation was coming for me, so I exited the room. And about 5 minutes later, Bill came into the other room where I was, and he said, he had that little half smile on his face, that sort of grin, and I knew something was up. And he said, "I want to show you something. Come in here with me." And so we went into the kitchen, and the toaster was like in a different spot. It was down the counter in front of a different outlet. And Bill said, with that little grin on his face, he said, "I think I found your problem." He said, I plugged the toaster into this other outlet over here, and now it works fine, except for this little handle here." And, you know, I'm not sure why I remember this so vividly, but I think it was that Bill didn't advertise this to Melissa and Carol. He kept it kind of quiet. We both had a good laugh about it, and didn't try to humiliate me any more than I already was. But that was kind of who Bill was, and this pattern repeated itself over 23 years, basically. Me destroying things and him fixing them. But he loved to be the guy who figured things out, made them work. He was very good at it. But he was far too kind and loving and good-hearted to make even his new idiot son-in-law feel terrible about it. So, but this was just one of the many things that I think made Bill an incredible human being. So thank you for indulging me, and I'll turn it over to Eric Gangloff now to do a reading, which I think is also included in your program.
Good job.
Good morning, everyone. Thanks for being here on behalf of the family. We really appreciate everyone's presence today, and thanks to Matt for getting us started here. I'm Eric Gangloff, and very proud to be Bill's son-in-law, the wife of his daughter, Becky Slater. And I'm going to share a poem that Becky picked out, titled "Death is Nothing at All" by Henry Scott Holland. You can find it on the back of your program. Death is nothing at all. It does not count. I've only slipped away into the next room. Nothing has happened. Everything remains exactly as it was. I am I, and you are you. And the old life that we lived so fondly together is untouched, unchanged. Whatever we were to each other, that we still are. Call me by the old familiar name. Speak of me in the easy way which you always used. Put no difference in your tone. Wear no forced air of solemnity or sorrow. This is the part I think Bill would especially appreciate. Laugh as we always laughed at the little jokes that we enjoyed together. Play, smile, think of me, pray for me. Let my name be ever the household word that it ever was. Let it be spoken without an effort, without the ghost of a shadow upon it. Life means all that it ever meant. It is the same as it ever was. There is absolute and unbroken continuity. What is this death but a negligible accident? Why should I be out of mind because I am out of sight? I am but waiting for you, for an interval, somewhere very near, just around the corner. All is well, nothing is hurt, nothing is lost. One brief moment and all will be as it was before. How we shall laugh at the trouble of parting when we meet again. Thank you.
Thank you, Eric. I'd like to ask John Peterson to come up now.
Good morning. As already mentioned, I'm
John Peterson, Bill Slater's brother-in-law. I married Carol's sister Kathy, and that brought me into the family. I was fortunate to have known Bill going back to our college days. As fate would have it, in many ways, our lives ran with a lot of similarities. When I first met Bill, he had come to St. Louis with Carol during their college years. He showed up in bell-bottom pants, a vest, long hair, and as you might imagine, Carol's mother, although she was gracious, seemed a little cautious.
He was a Jersey boy.
I liked him immediately. As Carol and Bill's relationship became more serious, they eventually got engaged. One story I will always remember is when Bill was with the family. I think it was a night or maybe 2 nights before their wedding. Carol's mom had invited the parish priest who would be conducting the ceremony, and as he was going around the room introducing himself to people he didn't know, he came across Bill. Bill, he asked, "What parish in New Jersey do you belong to?" Now, Bill was not known as an avid churchgoer. In any event, he seemed to stumble a little bit, stuttering, and finally said, "You know, it was the Sijum, Our Lady of the Circumcision." I am 1 year older than Bill, and thus graduated from college 1 year before him. Shortly after my graduation, I joined the Marine Corps Reserve based in St. Louis. Soon after Bill graduated, he did the same. In the late 60s, when you went to boot camp, you were trained to shoot with an M14 rifle, and he had amazing accuracy. In the Marine Corps, every member was considered to be a rifleman first. You also got, from time to fire other weapons. My favorite was the M79 grenade launcher. But Bill really took to the M60 machine gun. He became very proficient with that as well. He served the remainder of his 6-year commitment in the special unit in our Marine Corps Reserve unit known as the Remington Raiders. When his 6-year commitment was up, he exited with the rank of sergeant, and that occurred in 1975. After all of that, I had entered the insurance business. Guess what? Bill did the same. After a year, he was offered a position in the home office of General American Life Insurance Company. And a few years, 3 or 4 after that, I essentially joined him in that company. But soon then, our paths diverged. I went to Detroit. Bill went to Boston. Even though we now lived apart, we would see each other on special holidays, but the family held a reunion every 5 years that all of the relatives who could would attend. Bill, in particular, at those reunions, after dark, after the small kids had gone to bed, he would entertain all of us with his famous and somewhat off-color limericks. he's still retained, and I'm sure recited some of them to many of you in this room as the years went by. Like many years Bill did in his life, he was an outstanding success in the insurance career. One of his managers who had worked with him wrote me after learning of Bill's death. I'm going to quote a little bit from what he had said. In 2000, MetLife acquired General American. At that time, decisions were made to consolidate all 3 pension units from New England Financial, General American, and MetLife. Consolidate them all into one unit under the MetLife brand and under Bill's leadership. He went on to write that it was through his actions that this was accomplished. The result became a milestone in MetLife. He further wrote that in his opinion, Bill was the perfect choice and one of only a few people who could accomplish this. He retired in 2007 as Executive Vice President of the MetLife Retirement Plans Group. What came next was the perfect ending in his career. They moved to Daniel Island. He and Carol joined the country club, and this is where he steadily improved his golf game. I hope that's. But he also spent time volunteering time reading to preschool children, and as many of you here know, he also was very active and dedicated to working as a tour guide on this fine ship. Final day was left playing golf and then finishing that bridge over that famous fish pond that many of you have already heard about. It was a perfect ending. I view him as a true friend, a life well lived. Simplify.
Thank you, John. I'd like to ask David Ryan, Bill's good friend, to come up.
Good morning. Picking up on some of the other points that people have made today, I've known Bill for 15 years here on Daniel Island, and it's been a wonderful 15 years, but our paths actually crossed 40 years ago. So MetLife terminated the lease of a building I was in Boston. And Bill showed up. I didn't know that, but 15 or 30 years later, he and I had a giggle over that. He always said he enjoyed the old office that I used to have, except his was a new office. In those 15 years, I think we've all enjoyed Bill's personality. We like listening to him tell us stories about how the raccoons and the storks are eating all the koi fish out of the fish pond. I don't think it's a fish pond if they're fishing in it.
It's a bullfrog podcast.
His entertaining stories about neighbors and knife fights as they delivered furniture to that place. And most of all, I think there was a little bit of the fix-it thing that you were mentioning. Bill never fully explained what he was thinking when he got on a wet roof, on a metal roof, on a rainy day, in order to try and find a leak up there. We never let him live that down.
up there in trouble getting them back, and they don't want to miss this.
They paid extra for that. We did tease him an awful lot about that. Bill was one of these people that I call easy. Easy to be with, easy to like, easy to smile, and he was always there when you needed him. He touched the lives of many of us through golf and volunteering here in Yorktown and the other things that we've talked about this morning. And I know that his success professionally reflected an awful lot of these same attributes. I can fully understand why he would move ahead, particularly in an organization that's merging and amalgamating, as you were saying. His passing came as a surprise and a shock to everyone. After all, several of us had just finished playing golf with him that very afternoon. That's not supposed to happen to one of the good guys. I know that I find myself thinking of him being there when I'm putting together golf groups, planning social issues, and just emailing jokes. When I play Ralston Creek and get to the third green, I can picture him sitting on his deck out there ready to make some comment about how bad a putt. I think the best way to help people understand how much he was appreciated is to read some of the comments that I received on emails when I told my friends and colleagues about his passing. And I'll just quote some of them for you.
Can you speak up, please?
Oh, all right, sorry. Okay. Is that better? In order for you to get a sense of the general appreciation for Bill and how well he was liked, I'll just quote some of the comments that came to me in emails. I happened to be in an airport at the time, but came to me in emails when they learned of Bill's passing. One of them is, if you were to look up the word gentleman in the dictionary, you would see his picture. A wonderful person. I thought that was very elegant. Another one said, if he was in your group for golf, you knew you were going to have a pleasant day, regardless of how you played. Bill was a real gentleman, fun to be with, on the course and socializing. One of the very best at many levels. The sun is less bright today. One of the nicest people you would ever meet. Always upbeat, always smiling, never discouraged. And so it went on with everyone commenting along those lines. I think it's safe to say that Bill left an indelible impression on the lives of all of us who knew him. He'll be missed, and while we're missing him, and while his passing is sad, we can take solace in the knowledge that he's in a good place. And Carol and the rest of your family, our hearts are with you.
It's a little too tall for me now, so thank you, David. Ask Jim Cantwell to come forward, please. I think Jim's tall, so I'll leave it where it is. Not that tall, but tall enough.
Well, all of us have wonderful memories of Bill and his warm, open, even-keeled personality. And most importantly, the fact that he was a lot of fun to be with. And he always was ready to help anybody out who needed a hand, and always with a smile. Now, when Bill and Carol moved to Daniel Island, or shortly after that, Bill got the idea that, well, we should really take day trips and explore the low country. And so how better to do that than on a motorcycle? So Bill bought a motorcycle. And of course, he wasn't going to ride on this motorcycle alone. He planned that Carol would go with him on all of these jumps. So he got her a comfortable backrest, a helmet, of course, and I think probably very stylish riding gear. And Carol did ride on the motorcycle. Just once. And then she hung up her helmet. And I don't really know whether this was because of Bill's riding or whether there was some other reason. But what Bill told us was that he and Carol had talked about all this, and they had jointly decided that maybe they weren't really motorcycle people after all. And soon, the motorcycle was for sale on eBay. It took a while, but it did sell. When all of us moved to South Carolina, we knew that hurricanes were a thing that you had to cope with and deal with. And it was really a question of, are you going to evacuate and all of this? Well, 6 or 7 years ago, about that anyway, there was a hurricane that threatened to hit Charleston. So we all talked about, should we evacuate? And then we decided, well, let's have a hurricane party, and we can talk about this and make a decision. So we did that. And of course, Bill and Carol were there. We had 10 or 11 people. After a few drinks, we had sort of forgotten all about the hurricane. But what did happen at that point was, with the 10 or 11 people, all of a sudden, all of their cell phones started to ping simultaneously. And it was a message that, take this evacuation notice seriously. You really should probably go somewhere safer. Well, Bill told us that he and Carol were going to go up to the mountains of North Carolina and stay at the LaFrances, some friends. And that Dorothy and I should go too. And I said, Bill, that sounds like a wonderful idea, except we haven't been invited. And Bill, being his usual generous self, said, no problem. What's 2 more evacuees? They won't mind. And fortunately, they didn't mind. So anyway, the next day, Bill and Carol left, and they left about an hour before us. And we got to the LaFrance's house, no Bill and Carol. And what had happened was Bill, not one to miss an opportunity, had found that there was a brewery that was offering tours, and so they had gone there first. Well, they eventually did get to the LaFrance's, and they brought liquid refreshments that we enjoyed for 2 days while we were up there. But that's just so typical of Bill. He's always thinking of other people, and we all have many great memories of Bill. Playing golf with him, going to Charleston, College of Charleston basketball games, guided tours by Bill on this ship when we had company that would come into town, and Bill would take them on a tour. And of course, gatherings with all of our friends. Underlying all of Bill's good qualities was a genuine interest in and love that he had for people, and especially for Carol and his beloved family. And it's so nice to see all of you. But what I remember most is that how fortunate I was to have Bill as a friend. And I think all of us who knew Bill and were friends with him have sort of the same reaction. And we will all miss him. Rest in peace, Bill.
Jim.
Thank you, Jim. I'd ask Mark Derision, another of Bill's good friends, to come forward.
I'm gonna have to lower that now.
Good. That'll continue.
The run of the lift. Carol, family, friends. My thoughts today are of many Bill stories we all know, but instead of taking time because it's warm, spend a few minutes just talking about the person Bill was to me and all who knew him. He was, without doubt, a beacon of hope and positivity in a world that often feels heavy with
Sorry, Mark, I
challenges.
think they can't hear you back there.
Still back?
Get a little
Okay,
closer.
a little closer.
There we go.
He was a beacon of positivity and hope in a world that often is heavy with challenges. He carried a light that was just impossible to ignore. He had the ability to, every fall, and we know his famous one, he would get up and it just would be a reason to rise again. He sincerely believed that the College of Charleston would never lose a game. We could be 10, 15 points down, 3 minutes to go, Lynn Elias left, and he would still stay because we might win. He was vocal in his appreciation for all that he was blessed to have. Knowing he was a Marine, I brought him a ball marker from Paris Island Golf Course. You would have thought I'd given him the Navy Cross, he was so thankful. There was never a day that I was with him that he did not express gratitude for all he had. The phrase I remember is, "Aren't we living in paradise?" And that seemed, I think, to be his favorite phrase. His laughter was contagious, and unwavering faith in the goodness of people and the love of his family was an inspiration to all of us. Bill had a unique talent to see the world through a lens of goodness and encouraged us all to be optimistic. I'll get through this. In our hearts, Bill lives as a reminder that there's always a reason to smile, always a reason to be thankful, and always a reason to believe that there's a brighter tomorrow.
So we'll now hear from Andrew Barrett, who's the volunteer coordinator here at the USS Yorktown.
Good morning. Again, my name's Andrew Barrett. I go by Drew. I'm the pleasure and honor of being the volunteer coordinator here at Patriots Point. I didn't like to use the term boss. I had 168 wonderful, awesome people I had the utmost pleasure and honor and humbled to work with, so I didn't like using the term boss. So I've been in my role for a little over a year now, but I've been a volunteer for about 10 years. Third generation, so Navy. So granddad was PT boats, World War II. My dad was a SEAL. So you imagine discipline in my house growing up. So yeah. So never yelled. It was more mom. You ran for mom. So so when I had the honor of taking this job, I thought, well, this is the best job ever, and I wasn't lying. So when I first took this position, I made it a point to round, when I worked at MUSC, around logistics and supply chain. I said, make it a point to round on all my troops. Like about 37% are non-prior service folks. We won't hold that against them. They bring wonderful stuff to the table. So Bill, Friday afternoons, 12, what I call the mid shift, the mid watch, 12 to 3. When we leave here, folks, if you walk by the information desk, only if you're on the back side of the desk, imagine Bill every Friday. I can't remember a time he wasn't here. If he wasn't here, it's probably because I wasn't here and didn't see him. So far right high chair, that was Bill's perch. So that was his favorite spot to be. So me being Navy and Bill being a Marine, he kind of kindly bantered me about something Navy. I'm like, you do realize you're on a naval vessel, correct? So I'm like, yeah, Bill, BMB, just kind of that easy Bill's grin of his. I'm like, okay, all right, I'll go chill on that a little while. So I went down to the volunteer lounge. I showed Carol and the family the volunteer lounge, which volunteers utilize that as their space. I don't call it my office. I call it the volunteer lounge. I just say I happen to be taking up some space in there. So I came back about an hour later. If you look behind the information desk, you notice these cabinets. So I come up and I'm frantically going through the cabinets, and I'm like, and Bill's sitting there kind of looking like, what the hell are you doing? So I'm like, Bill, move, Bill, move. He's like, what are you looking for? I'm like, I'm looking for the crayons and coloring books for you Marines. And I kind of looked up at Bill, and he kind of looked down at me, and we both kind of smiled and nodded. And Bill goes, yeah, you got me on that one. So I'd say my wife asked me when I took this position, what is your favorite part of this job? Meeting people like Bill, and 68 other awesome, wonderful people I've ever had the pleasure and honor of working with. They always say that you leave the last who's off for last. So I get 8 more years if I can stand these things, if I can get through it. No, it's wonderful. It's not on their level at all. It's the most wonderful people I've had the honor and pleasure of meeting with. So the favorite part of my job is to come here every day, work with the most awesome people, volunteer our staff, come to the ship, come to my office, the lounge every day, and work with people like I did with Bill. So my wife, being an attorney and pretty analytical, she threw me a curveball. What's the least favorite part of your position? I'm doing it right now. Which I'm actually, the worst part of my position is actually I'm kind of happy because I'm hearing some of these stories about Bill I never knew. Because we did know each other a great deal. I tried to remedy that. So it's a pleasure and honor standing here in front of you folks today. I told Carol he has his ID card. Hold on to that. Anytime you want to come back with family, you have my contact. You let me know. So this is probably the least favorite part of my job. And sadly, with the age group that most of my volunteers are, I will see a lot more of these. And I'll be hopefully remembering this room again one day as well. So when we conclude, your call. When we conclude this, I'd like for the son and son-in-law, we have a plaque here. Again, like I said, the down part of my job is adding to this memorial. So this hangs up across the information desk. Normally there's pictures up there. I call that the wall of honor. It's all the volunteers when they were in service. We took that down because we're about to one of my volunteers is going to repaint the boards, make them nice and neat, and I've got to add 33 more pictures. So I took the pictures down for them to do that project. But normally the wall of honor would be up there. It's the pictures of the volunteers when they were in service. So once we conclude this, maybe the family can follow me. We'll go hang the plaque up, if you would just indulge me. I do have something else. In the past, I found a whole box of these. I didn't know really what to do with them. Sadly, this is the fourth volunteer I've had to update. I didn't really know the other 3 volunteers that passed. They were before my time, not to discredit their wonderful service. I did know Bill, obviously. I passed Bill. Hey, Bill. Hey, Drew. All right, have a good weekend. Yep, yes, sir. You too. So unfortunately, we didn't engage much, just in passing. And just that time, he kind of ribbed me for being Navy, and I had to rib him for being a Marine. So we did all in pun. But what I knew from Bill was he loved his family. He loved volunteering. I mean, it'd probably take an act of Congress or a higher power to get him not to come here on his volunteer day. I knew Bill that well. So I had 2 things for Carol and the family. If I can get it out. I'm going to present you with a picture from the Wall of Honor with Bill. Bill served 14 years. He was just shy of his 15th year, and for every 5 years we recognize the volunteers with a pin, 5-year pin, 10-year pin, 15, 20, 25, and so on. So Bill was just shy of his 15th year, is my understanding. So we are going to honor Bill with presenting Carol and the family for this 15-year pin. So folks, that will conclude my speech. Once again, if you'll indulge us, if the family wants to, we'll take the plaque and hang on the wall. Feel free to come join us. We'll turn back to the family. Thank you for listening to me, and thank you for attending.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Drew. So now, if anyone else would like to say a few words, I'd ask you to come up and feel free to do so.
But it is warm, so
But it is warm, so if
yeah, we understand.
understand if no one is up for that. So yeah.
And folks, when you're ready to leave, I'll call the golf carts on the radio, and they'll be more than happy to take you back up to top of the pier.
So Matt Rosetta, who's a best friend of Bill's son, Bill Jr., is coming up to speak.
Hi, I am, like Matt said, I've been Bill's son. He's been my best friend for 45 years. Bill Slater's son, has been my best friend for 45 years. And I want to tell you about a beautiful gift that Mr. Slater gave to me. I grew up in a house where the parents didn't really know how to show each other love, so I'd never seen that before. And that being said, the Slaters were my second family. They were really like the family that I aspired to have when I grew up. And they used to take me on tons of trips. I used to go to Red Sox games, sporting events, museums. They took me everywhere, everywhere. And on those trips, between the moments where Bill and I were in the back fighting over not crossing the line, I'd look in the front, and on every single one of those trips, I'd see Mr. Slater who would have his hand on Mrs. Slater's thigh. And I'd look at it, and for some reason in those moments, Bill and I in the back weren't fighting. And there was a calm in the car. It was very unfamiliar to me though, and I'd look and I'd say, what is he saying? What is he doing in that moment? And to me, it spoke very loudly through the calm in that room and the energy, whatever you want to call it, that he was saying, this is a moment, I'm happy to be here with you, and I love you. And to this day, the reason why I say it's a gift is because I would never have known to share love like that with my wife if I didn't see him share that with his wife. I do it 2 to 3 times a week with my wife, and every single time I think of Mr. Slater. He will always be Mr. Slater to me, very much a dad to me. And I'm not a religious person, but I certainly feel that he can hear me when I say thank you and that I love you. And we'll be very much missed.
Is there anyone else who would like to come forward? Okay. It's a good ending spot. Thank you so much again for coming, and thanks again to the USS Yorktown Foundation for allowing us to hold this here. And thank you, Drew.
And folks, we do have the elevator toward the front, towards the desk, if you wish to take the elevator. So we're going to take the plaque and we'll go mount it on the wall of honor.